Pero si esa es la muerte, bienvenida sea.
Luis Garavito, the man behind some of history's most horrifying crimes, is now free. That's right, Colombia's Beast is out. How did this happen? Why was he released? Today we uncover the shocking truth, legal loopholes, and what happens next. And trust me, it's disturbing. Luis Alfredo Garavito remembered him as La Bestia, the Beast, a name that perfectly encapsulates the unimaginable atrocities he committed during the 1990s. Between 1992 and 1999, Garavito carried out a reign of terror that claimed the lives of at least 138 children, though investigators believe the actual number of his victims may be far higher, potentially exceeding 300. The children he targeted, often homeless or from struggling families, trusted Garavito's friendly demeanor, only to fall victim to one of the most sadistic predators the world has ever known. It all started in 1990s Colombia. Political instability, guerrilla warfare, and poverty created the perfect environment for this monster to repeat his crimes, while authorities dismissed them as cartel violence. His plan was almost too simple, and that's exactly why it worked. He posed as a priest, teacher, or charity worker, roles people naturally trusted. With gifts, food, or the promise of work, he lured his victims to isolated areas, where the truth finally came out. Garavito's ability to evade capture for so many years left entire regions in a state of constant fear, but no one could connect the dots. For years, Garavito moved between regions, changing his appearance and identity, leaving behind little evidence. It was as if a ghost was preying on Colombia's most vulnerable, and no one seemed able to stop him. But who was Luis Alfredo Garavito before he became the Beast? Luis Alfredo Garavito Cubillos was born on January 25, 1957, in the rural town of Bienova, Quindío, nestled in the heart of Colombia. His early years were not marked by innocence or joy, but by relentless suffering and darkness. Garavito was the eldest of 7 siblings, a position that might traditionally come with a sense of responsibility or favor. However, in his case, it made him a primary target of his father's wrath. His father, Manuel Antonio Garavito, was described as an aggressive, controlling, and authoritarian man who had little regard for the well-being of his children. Manuel's punishments were brutal and relentless, often leaving Luis humiliated both physically and emotionally. It is reported that Garavito's father frequently berated him, calling him worthless and destroying any sense of self-worth he may have had. The family's home, far from being a safe haven, was a place of fear and instability. But the horrors of his childhood didn't end there. Outside of his father's violence, Garavito was also subjected to SA, an experience that would have a profound and devastating impact on his psyche. Multiple accounts suggest that this abuse came from individuals in his community, adding yet another layer of betrayal and trauma to his young life. Garavito struggled to connect with his peers, often displaying erratic and aggressive behavior that set him apart. He was an outcast, a boy without a sense of belonging, forced to endure not only the abuse at home, but also the alienation from the world around him. As he grew older, Garavito turned to alcohol in a misguided attempt to numb the pain of his reality. By his teenage years, he had developed a dependence on drinking, using it as a way to escape the memories of his traumatic past, just as he had once been powerless in the face of his abusers. Luis Alfredo Garavito started his brutal spree in the early 1990s, leaving Colombia in shock. Over nearly 7 years, he targeted at least 193 boys. Many lived on the streets, worked as shoe shiners, or came from rural areas where people had very little. These children were easy targets for Garavito, who took advantage of their trust. Garavito was clever in how he tricked his victims, making the children believe he wanted to help. Once they trusted him, he took them to empty fields, forests, or abandoned buildings, places where no one could hear them. His first known attempt happened in 1992 in Quindío, where several boys' bodies were found. In 1994, he moved to Cali in the Valle del Cauca region, where at least 15 more boys disappeared in just a few months. Witnesses saw a man like him around parks and markets, offering food and money to children. By 1995, he expanded to Pereira and Risaralda. He targeted bus stations, markets, and busy streets where poor children gathered, hoping to find work or food. Since he kept moving from town to town, it was hard for authorities to catch him. Between 1996 and 1997, his actions grew even more disturbing. In Santander and Bucaramanga, authorities uncovered hidden graves linked to him. Witnesses recalled seeing him in different disguises, sometimes as a farmer, other times as a worker, luring kids away with promises they never questioned. By 1998, things hit a breaking point. More victims were found in the Boyacá region in the Andes, and for the first time, investigators started putting the pieces together. This wasn't random, it was the work of one man. Garavito managed to stay under the radar because Colombia was dealing with major issues: conflict, crime, and poverty. Authorities were overwhelmed, so cases like these didn't get much attention. Plus, he was careful, constantly changing his look by shaving, wearing glasses, and switching clothes to avoid suspicion. His crimes left communities in fear. Parents were terrified that their children could be next. So many kids had disappeared that people felt helpless. Even after Garavito was caught, the pain he caused did not go away. Families were left heartbroken, and the horror of his actions still haunts Colombia today. Garavito's story is a warning of how evil can spread when no one is watching and justice is too slow. In the mid-1990s, young boys from impoverished or homeless families began disappearing across Colombia. Law enforcement, swamped by political instability and violence, struggled to investigate. These cases went largely unnoticed until 1996, when mass graves were uncovered in rural areas, exposing victims, boys aged 6 to 16. Witnesses described a man enticing children with money, food, or jobs, sparking suspicions of a serial perpetrator. By 1997, investigators believed one individual was behind the crimes, but Colombia's fractured justice system and limited resources made solving the case extremely challenging. In the 1990s, Colombia faced violent conflicts between armed groups and cartels, keeping the police too busy to focus on cases like missing children. Many of Garavito's victims came from poor communities, so their disappearances were often ignored. Garavito was also hard to catch. He changed his look, moved between towns, and chose hidden places for his crimes, making it difficult for authorities to track him. Forensic evidence helped connect Garavito to the crimes. A pair of prescription glasses found at a crime scene was traced back to a local eye doctor who confirmed they belonged to him. DNA from multiple locations also matched Garavito. Investigators later discovered his journals, where he described how he tricked victims, his thoughts during his actions, and even moments of regret. These details helped the police build a strong case against him. As investigators gathered more evidence, witnesses from various towns revealed that Garavito was very friendly with children. He often stayed in locations with minimal police presence, making it easier to carry out his crimes. In 1999, Garavito made a crucial mistake. He kidnapped a boy in Villavicencio, but the boy managed to escape and provided a description to the police. Around the same time, investigators discovered a mass grave nearby, and the evidence pointed to Garavito. Forensic tests later confirmed some of the bodies were his victims. On April 22, 1999, police arrested him near Villavicencio for attempting to kidnap the boy. They soon realized they had caught the notorious criminal. During questioning, Garavito admitted to harming 138 victims. His confession was disturbing. He described his actions and the sense of control he felt. Later, police found his journals, which contained detailed accounts of his crimes, including descriptions of his victims and his thoughts about what he had done. Psychologists studying Garavito noted his lack of empathy and unusual calmness when discussing his past. Experts believe his troubling behavior was shaped by a difficult childhood. What made him different was his extreme planning and need for control. He kept detailed journals recording everything. Garavito focused on vulnerable individuals, often those without support, as they reminded him of his own struggles growing up. Through this, he sought a misguided sense of control. The evidence against Garavito was undeniable. DNA from multiple locations linked him to the cases, and witnesses reported seeing him with those who had disappeared. His journals, which contained detailed accounts of his actions, further confirmed his involvement. With so much proof, both investigators and the public were convinced of his guilt. Garavito's arrest brought a mix of relief and heartbreak to the communities affected. Families were glad he had been caught, but the pain of their loss remained. His capture also revealed serious flaws in Colombia's justice system. Gaps in law enforcement coordination and limited resources for investigating missing children allowed him to evade capture for years. Garavito's trial received widespread attention, with overwhelming evidence presented in court. His confessions, journals, DNA, and witness testimonies all pointed to his guilt. Despite the severity of his actions, he remained calm and showed little emotion. While he expressed sorrow and asked for forgiveness, many of the victims' families felt his words were empty, unable to erase the pain he had caused. Colombia's legal system had a major loophole. No matter how many crimes someone committed, the maximum sentence was capped at 40 years. Garavito's sentence was further reduced to just 22 years because he cooperated with authorities. By confessing and helping locate victims' remains, he secured a significant reduction in his punishment. This decision outraged the public. Many were shocked that someone responsible for such horrific crimes could potentially walk free after serving only a fraction of his sentence. Protests erupted across Colombia, with people demanding stricter laws to prevent such leniency in the future. Under Colombian law, inmates who show good behavior and participate in rehabilitation programs can have their sentences reduced. This raised serious concerns that Garavito could be released early. Despite his confessions and claims of remorse, experts had doubted that he had truly changed. Psychologists warned that his deep-rooted issues couldn't be addressed by standard rehabilitation programs, and releasing him could pose a serious risk. The controversy over Garavito's sentence led to urgent calls for legal reform. Many experts argued that existing laws were not equipped to handle extreme cases like his. In response to public outrage, Colombia introduced stricter laws to increase penalties for crimes against children, aiming to strengthen protections for vulnerable individuals. However, many felt these changes came too late and still didn't go far enough. Even years after his trial, Garavito's crimes continued to cast a shadow over Colombia. Families of his victims and entire communities were left struggling with grief and fear. His name became a symbol of flaws in the justice system and a reminder of the need to protect society's most vulnerable. While the discovery of victims' remains provided some closure, the pain of loss never truly faded. Across the country, parents became more protective, and communities remained deeply affected by the trauma. In his later years, Garavito's health declined due to severe illness. He spent his final days in a maximum security prison where he required ongoing medical treatment. On October 12, 2023, at the age of 66, he passed away in a hospital in Valledupar. His death marked the end of a life that had caused immeasurable harm, but his crimes left an impact that would never be forgotten. Garavito's case exposed critical flaws in how vulnerable children, especially those without stable homes, were treated and often overlooked by society. His actions forced the country to confront uncomfortable truths about child welfare and justice. While legal reforms followed, they came too late for the victims and their families. Following public outrage, Colombia strengthened penalties for crimes against children and took steps to improve child welfare services. More support was provided to families facing financial hardship, aiming to prevent similar tragedies in the future. However, many believe these changes were only a starting point, as deeper systemic issues remain.